Hey guys, welcome to this video explaining how Code Vein works in terms of the stats and leveling, so you can get as much out of your playthrough as possible. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, so YouTube can show this video to other people and get them to be the best Revenant they can in their game as well. When playing the game, there's a couple things you want to look out for, such as locating the Mistle, like the one I'm at right now, and that brings up the stats of the player, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So the stats can be broken down into a couple of separate categories. You have growth, vitals, stat grades, equipment offense and defense, guarding, evasion, and equipment requirements. So one of the first things we're going to look at is haze. Now, what exactly is haze? Well, let's look at that right now. So haze is the currency of the game. Every time you take an enemy out, you gain some level of haze. Now, when you go to a Mistle, you can use that in order to level up your character. But what you can also do at the Mistle as well is you can look at your stats you have. You can also then look at the gifts that you have, and you can level up your gifts as well, as we see over here. Different gifts we have for each blood code. You can check what's in your storage and transfer items across, which is quite helpful, especially with a lot you want to offload it. You can also teleport to different areas of the game. As you go further in the game, you can get to different places. If you receive any presents from people, you can start your tutorial. And that's pretty much it. So if we go back to the level up area, we can see the different stats that we have here. You can also see the blood code as well, which you can choose, and that can change the stats that you see on the screen here. But I also want to look at a couple things as well. So when we look at the haze, if you die, your haze effectively goes away and you lose that haze you had. You can go back and get it, or you can go to the hot spring over here and get half of your haze back by coming here. So either way, you get something out of it. Or if you die again, you don't get anything at all. So next we have health. That's the red bar below. Every time, obviously, as you get hit, you lose health, as we see here. And if that goes 0, you disperse. You don't die in the game because effectively you're immortal. And what we also have here is stamina. So every time you move, do a hit, roll, or anything, like this big move I'm doing right now, your bar goes down to 0. When it goes all the way red, you can't do anything, but it refills pretty quickly. So it's not going to take you too long to get back into the action. Or you let your partner help you out while your stamina recovers. The game can be quite forgivable in this aspect, so it's not too bad here. On the bottom right, that is 10 for me, is the Ichor. Now that is the ability to help you cast certain things like your buffs to yourself or to your partner, or you can also cast the gifts over here. Like we have this fireball that I'm casting right now that takes away 5. That will refill itself, and I can use it again, but I'll then have 0 afterwards. And you can gain Ichor by doing drain attacks, or you can rest at a Mistle and it will recover the Ichor, your stamina as well. But bear in mind, it will also respawn all the enemies you just defeated. So bear that in mind. Now, what we have above here, the little bar above here that flashes, that is the focus. Now, because I'm really strong, I can take all these guys out pretty quickly. Now, what we have here is the regen. Every time I get hit, in this case right now, I got hit, and I recover, I can then use that while I'm in battle to recover some of the health that I have here, which is quite helpful. Now, moving on to the next part. So let's go through the stats we have here. So we talked about level, we talked about haze, we talked about HP, stamina, and Ichor. Now we're going to look at the strength. On the left-hand side here, we have strength, dexterity, mind, willpower, vitality, and fortitude. Each one of them have a scaling component. You can see here, they're going from A to C, or A to D in my case. The whole entire scale goes from S all the way to F. The higher up you go, the better that stat actually is. So if you look at strength, every time you do a physical attack, that will determine how hard you hit and how much HP you have as well. Dexterity affects your movement and your drain rating. Mind affects your stamina, your drain speed, weapon gifts, bayonet shot, light gifts. The will, same thing, but affects your dark attacks, like that fireball did earlier. Then you have vitality, that affects your HP reduction and your damage reduction. And then we also have fortitude, which looks at your stamina and your elemental resistance. That's anything like your blood, toxin, light hits, ice, etc. Those sort of things. That's how much resistance you have against that. So let's look at the other part now, which is around this bit here. So let's look at the weapon offense. So when you choose a different weapon, you have different attack types. The Judgment Edge I'm using right now is Slash, but if you look at other weapons, they'll have things like Slash and Pierce, or just a pierced attack itself. At the bottom of that, you also have the physical. So the physical attack power, the base, the scaling, like you see there on the side here as well. And what you seem to be doing here is looking at the different type of attack types. You have Crush, Pierce, Slash, etc. And the Drain attack is also the attack power for the Drain. So when you parry, when you do your charge Drain attack, how much that damage does to the opponent. You also have the elemental attacks: blood, fire, ice, lightning. Now those you have to attach to the weapon, or you might pick it up in the wild. Now in order to do that, you need to go to the home base, speak to Rin, and then you can upgrade your weapons and your blood bill as well. Now also one thing I want to mention here is that the equipment offense and defense, those stats realistically are set by the blood bill that you use. So there is a element of that when using it. So if we look at the defense section of the weapons, we have physical resistance, that'll be to Slash, Crush, and Pierce. So taking a look at this part over here, so that happens like when you're just moving around, you're not guarding anything, you're not doing anything, or if you get hit with later levels, you get some lava, how much damage you take from that. You then have the elemental resistance, same thing but for elemental attacks like your blood, fire, your ice, your lightning. Then you also have balance. Now the balance part, you can't see it here with a weapon, but the balance part here, that affects your stagger. So if the higher the balance, less you're going to stagger, and vice versa. So what you see me doing over here is select different blood bells, and you see how the stats change and scale based on the blood bells that you choose. So you can see the stat scaling at the top, and as you change the different blood bells, there you see the stats go higher in blue, or some of the stats go lower based on the blood bill you have in red, and the stats below that as well show the same thing. Because you can change them on the fly in your weapons, you can change your stats pretty much all the time. So let's look at the equipment guarding. The physical resistance, how much damage you take when you're guarding an attack, that caps 100% and is multiplied against the blood bill defense that you have. You also have the elemental resistance, so that's when you're being attacked with a elemental attack like venom or stun. And then you also have the stamina reduction as well. So that stamina reduction, that's how much stamina is used by when you guard. So the higher that value, the less stamina is used up. If you have no stamina, you'll get staggered, which means effectively you're more open to an attack happening to you, which nobody wants. And then you have the drain rating, which you see below is the drain attack, which I would say is pretty cool. The amount of E-core that is obtained when you're guarding attacks is dictated by your drain rating over here. So now we can move on to mobility and weight. So you can see here I'm dodging. The animation is determined by the mobility that we have. So that depends on the weapon and the blood code that I use. So my mobility right now is normal, as you saw right there. You also have slow, and you also have quick. If you have a heavier weapon, your mobility is going to be a lot slower. So the one I'm using right now gives me a normal mobility for both my weapons. And if I change the blood code, you can then see that I can have quicker mobility when I'm dodging, or slower mobility depending on the type of blood code that's there. So we can see here that now the dodge animation is much quicker. This is now the normal dodge, as the one we saw earlier was the slow dodge. So choosing your weapon and also choosing the blood code you have will greatly impact how quick you can dodge attacks. Now, if we look at the weight category, that's the total amount of weight the current equipment has. In this case, weapon 1 and your blood veil. So your total weight is listed below. So mine right now is above the weight category. So So I have 83 out of 70, and it's giving me a red, showing me that that's a lot of weight. Now there actually is levels to this, as seen on the screen here, for all you geeks want to look into it like me. So what we can see here is that because my weight is over the limit, my mobility will decrease by a certain percentage. And if it's below a certain amount, then I will be able to move much quicker. Somewhat game physics here as well, so that makes sense. So let's move over to the last part. So finally, let's talk about the equipment requirements. So that will be the weapon requirements and also the one for gifts. As you can see here, if I can't use a certain weapon because certain stats are required to use it, in this case, I need a mind stat of C in order to use the Ice Blood weapon. Now my stats will say that my mind is B, but it's due to the blood code that I'm using. The blood code that I have right now is clearly not enough, therefore it is highlighted in red. Plus it's a lot heavier well and shows me all the different stats that will change if I use that particular weapon. The red line across the weapon will just tell you you can't use it. So when you do try to use it, effectively the game will tell you that you don't have the requirements to use that particular weapon. So you just can't use it. But there'll be other weapons you can use, so it's not a big deal. We can see here with the blood code that anyone that I'm choosing, it will give me different requirements that I can use to do a particular weapon, depending on what it is. Now, if we look at the gift requirements, you can see here the required stats. I need a willpower of D+ in order to use this particular one. These I can use. The ones that have red lines to it, I can't. Now, that doesn't mean I can't choose it, because what I can do is I can choose the Flame Spike here, which is a cool move. And when I choose the Flame Spike, what it's going to then do is not allow me to use it. So, I can see here that I don't meet the requirements. I can still equip it, but I can't use it. So we see here, it's grayed out. The last part I want to mention here is the map. That map's going to be very helpful for you because that way you're able to see where you're going, and it also helps you see where you need to explore as well. And that is what I want to show you in terms of your essential guide of getting to grips with the mechanics of the game. I have another video talking about your tips and tricks that you can do in order to be as good as possible at this game. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you like these type of videos, and I will catch you in the next one. See you later.